something.
See, Doc, I know you. You want that view to be landscape. I know you.
You're right. I know.
But he has a Samsung, and just like
Oh,
Jamal, I mean, not.
No, this is an iPhone. I don't have no.
Oh, there
there
you
you
go.
go.
There we go. Now she
You
could
do
breathe.
landscape.
She could
It's-
smile now.
Now
See?
you see,
Yeah.
right?
You
The
go
shoulders
from
hit
door,
there.
you go from door to window frame. It's how you explain it.
I
Hello,
don't have.
everybody. Habari Ghani. Habari Ghani. We are here for the final night of Kwanzaa. I'm gonna go and share the broadcast with my listeners. The listening audience go to the groups. So come on in and like, comment, and share as you come in.
All right.
Again, Habari Ghani. Habari Ghani. Remember Habari Ghani. We start with that. You respond with the principle of the day. Then you say Habari Ghani back to the other person, and they repeat the principle of the day to you. So Habari Ghani, what's the news?
Imani.
Yeah.
And so I'm just sharing this live to my group. So be right with you.
Purpose, and now we're at Kuumba, which is
Echo that.
To the folks that are already on here, Barigani, I see you, Dr. Houston of Barigani, to you.
And Miss Dot. Don't forget about Big Sister Dot.
Yeah, big sister.
Yes.
Doctor, I shouldn't say doctor, retired Principal Dot McKeever Jeter of Barigani. I could call you doctor, though.
Last night I was sharing so fast, I shared in groups that weren't Black Educators Rock. I don't know if they approved them or not. Some of them went live on their own. I was like, oh, somebody got a lesson tonight.
Do
Too
me a
many.
favor, y'all. When y'all come in, hit that share button, retweet, repost, tag somebody, text somebody, let them know we're here. Day 7, Imani, Faith.
Too many groups. That's what this tells me. Too many groups. I don't even know how we got so many groups. I know we have at least 20 groups with Black Educators Rock. With the big one having 144,000. Too many groups, Principal Capele.
Yeah, a lot of groups.
They wanted to be separated according to discipline and grade level and region and state, and it just everybody wanted to be separated.
Oh, you got all them groups? I didn't even know that.
Elementary education, there's all
I
of them.
had no idea. I thought it was just leadership and then the states.
You're the only one that's not in them. Marcus and all of them, they're in all of them. They posting all of Michael McGraw.
Oh, really?
They're in Georgia, they're in Texas, they're in South Carolina, they're in New York, they're in all the groups.
Oh, yeah. I just go to Jersey and New York. That's all I use.
Well, that's where you are. It makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, Dr. Griffin, thank you for joining us earlier this week. Again, Habari Ghani, guys. It's about 8:01. 8:04. One more minute, we'll get started. Habari Ghani, we're just giving people a chance to get onto the live. We're sharing the live with folks, et cetera, et cetera. So come on in and say hello. And we're on our final principle of the Kwanzaa celebration. But as we have been saying since we started, this is not just about the celebration. This is about the implementation of the principles, or in Guzu Saba, this is about implementing those or values in your life 365 days of the year. This is just the time that we take to reflect, recenter, realign, reassess, etc., in order to restart anew. Today is the last day, which is faith. We're anchored in faith. We begin in unity. We're anchored in faith. And then in between that, we have unity. Oh, unity got to be black because that kind of black. Unity. Then we have self-determination. We have collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics. We also have purpose. We have creativity. And we have faith, right? So faith, and faith.
Now give him that key Swahili.
You just gave it to me. I listened to
Mocha, Kujichakalia, Ujima, Ujama, Nia, Kaumba, Imani.
Oh, no. No, I thought you meant that what you taught us the other night. What's the mat called?
The symbols.
The symbol. That's what I'm trying to get me.
We'll do a couple of them tonight. I just want to do a condensed version of what I did last night, not all that detail.
All right. So again, guys, we're getting started. We've been talking about the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. We're on principle number 7. We're anchored in faith. Again, this is not a religious holiday.
Mm-mm.
It is not religious. And when it comes
cultural,
IMANI, it is about faith to believe with all our hearts and our people and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. A profound and enduring belief in and commitment to all that is of value to us as a family, community, people, and culture, right? So it's a belief in these things, faith, having faith in them. That means that we don't articulate things like, the Black community, we doing bad, and the Black man this, because if we truly have faith, that means Principal Kafele, that means Big Brother Kafele, Baba Kafele. We have a profound and enduring belief in and commitment to all that is of value to us. And that's within our families, our community, our people, and our culture. And so, again, this is about asking yourself about this principle as you get ready to step into a new year. And so, do you have a belief in your people? Are you committed to your people, to your community, to your family, to the place you work, the place you serve? And so that is what we're talking about tonight. I'm joined by 3 individuals for the last night. We have our returner, Principal Kafele. He loves creativity and faith. Those were his 2 that he selected.
Kujichakalia and Nia. Those are my 2.
They are?
Yeah, that's what I said. Kujichakalia, number 2 and number 5. Kujichakalia and Nia.
Those are my yes. And so here we are on number 7 with Principal Baruti Kafele, who is an education icon. He's international. He's won every educational award there is to win. He has an award named after him at Black Educators Rock, which I did not mention. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Black Educators Rock, Dr. Melissa Noland Chester. I have had that privilege of serving in that role, in that capacity for 10 years next summer, or this summer coming, 2026. So we're on our annual conference, which will be the 10th one. We've been doing these since the summer of 2016, and we'll have the 10th one, the summer of 2026. We started in Orlando. We're going back to Orlando for number 10, and it is July 17th through the 20th, because we're so much more than a Facebook group, y'all. We're a whole nonprofit. We have a whole professional development conference. We have 3 areas of focus: instructional strategies and practices, professional knowledge, and advocacy and empowerment. And so this would fall up under our advocacy and empowerment, which focuses on the affective domain of educators and leaders, which we feel people don't do enough, right? Even when they talk about the achievement gap, Principal Kafele so aptly calls it the attitude gap, and the attitude would fall up under that affective domain. And so it is important to pay attention to that domain strategically and intentionally. And so we do things like this annual celebration of Kwanzaa, which is our 4th annual year. We also at our conferences have things on self-care, financial empowerment, ownership, investing, etc., health and physical wellness, social emotional wellness for leaders and educators, for all things affective domain. And so again, that's who I am. I said who Principal Kafele was, who was at our first conference and was the keynote for the inaugural conference and has been rocking with us ever since. And then we have Miss Simone A. Nicholas. I mentioned her last night and maybe a few nights prior. She's with Off School Grounds Coalition, OSG, which I told you guys I was a part of. She is the Lioness, and so she is also a principal of School by the Sea. That's right.
Yes, ma'am.
In Far Rockaway.
School by the Sea, ESMS.
Far Rockaway. Yeah, I know.
Rocking part of Far Rockaway, Queens, New York.
Yes. And so my big sister is joining us tonight. I mentioned she gives out the names in OSG on one of the nights. I was talking about the naming, the nomenclature, something like that.
Because I'm ready to name Principal Kafele.
Oh,
okay. What you got? So
just based on what Chess said, and if you hear Doc, if you hear Chess, that's the same person. I rarely call her Melissa. In fact, I always forget her first name. But because again, while we talk about foundation, we talk about building, we talk about what that's going to look like. You, sir, are the person who scripts and writes and creates that and puts the blueprint together. So you, sir, are the architect.
Ooh, wow. Ooh.
Guess what the name of his award is? It's the capstone. It's the capstone.
Yes.
Wow. I gotta live up to that.
The architect.
You gotta wait for Donna McKee to give you your coat, your jacket that has architect.
Yeah. I'll talk to Dennis a little later.
That happened in Rock.
Yeah. Wow.
Might not happen in California. It might be too soon.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That's in a couple of
That'll
weeks.
be hot because you're gonna be there. But I would rather for that to happen at the Rock Conference.
Yeah.
Rock Conference.
I appreciate that.
Okay, the architect. Okay, y'all. I told you I don't have 5 names, Principal Kafele. I've had so many names with OSG.
Her OSG name. So I take it very seriously. Other people try to name people. It's cute. But so there is such a thing called like an OG OSG person. And sometimes they come in waves, but everybody's always welcome, and it's nothing. What sustains a program is always new members, right? And although it's not a program, we still thrive on having people and surrounded who are like-minded. Yeah. So as the original OG namer, I told Chess that she was Doc Angel because she just kind of shows up just out of nowhere and then starts blessing you in spaces that you didn't even know you needed, support with. So that's why I called her Doc Angel. She done had about 47 other names in the but she's Doc Angel.
Well, she said that's our official name.
Yeah.
Doc Angel.
The names, Terrence, they be hot, Terrence. We got
it's the African, as
Kirk.
Yeah.
Who else we have? I mean, when I said they got some names, we got Power, we got Principal Power, we got.
And although every name that means something, right? But again, I'm a Brooklyn girl, born and raised, but my parents met in the Black Panther Party. So I was raised all kinds of levels of consciousness. And so one of the things that I absolutely recall is going to naming ceremonies, and that's a big deal. And so while my father has moved on, and I do have a fantastic bonus father, my little brother, my little sister, I remember going to Uhuru Sasa in Brooklyn. So all the Brooklyn people from the side, shout us out. And my sister's name is Nzinga Asata Rukia, intentionally. Nzinga from the Queen of Angola, Asata from Asata Shakur, and Rukia because she rises on high. So my mother was very intentional. And my brother is Jabari Shamis Sekou. And all of that about being warriors and about being, part of the sun. And it just so happens that, my brother also happens to be the state senator in the very area where he had his naming ceremony in Bedford-Stuyvesant.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Wow. So you from Bed-Stuy?
No, I'm actually from Prospect Heights. So today it's Prospect Heights. When I was younger, I called it Crown Heights. But literally, one side of Atlantic is Crown Heights, the other side of Atlantic is Bedford-Stuyvesant, Bed-Stuy, or the Stuy, interchangeably.
I started teaching in Crown Heights back in 1980. Empire Boulevard, PS 221, between Schenectady and Troy.
Very familiar with it.
Mhm.
Yes. So.
Yeah.
Yes, but we got to hear about our other brother now. I'm so sorry.
The last piece is somebody from my favorite city, y'all. I'm from Daytona Beach. Many people don't realize that. I'm from Daytona, right? First grade to 12th grade Daytona. And then I left and went to college at the age of 17. And I went to the highest of 7 Hills, Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University in Tallahassee, Florida. And so I consider Tallahassee a second home. And this gentleman is from there. His family has been there for many, many generations, and they're public servants, they're leaders in the community, and so honored to have Mr. Terrence Barr. We call each other twin because that's my personality. Both
I
got.
appreciate you so much, Doc, for affording me the opportunity.
Well, thank you for joining me. He's an entrepreneur and realtor. He also works in the banking industry, so because we believe in multiple streams, y'all. Dabbles a little bit in real estate investment as well, and so he's going to be joining the conversation tonight. And so I'm excited about the conversation. And so, Principal Fele, I'm going to let you go ahead and do your condensed version before we get into our conversation about the principles.
Yeah, very, very condensed. Habari Gani to everybody out there and everybody who will see the video later. I noticed that a lot of people had looked at last night's today, so that's a good thing. I just want to make sure, as I did last night, did folks understand that Kwanzaa didn't just spring up out of nowhere or just spring up out of Dr. Karenga's mind, Dr. Maulana Karenga in 1966 in isolation. A lot of times we talk about the Watts Rebellion in 1965, but there's a whole philosophy that Dr. Karenga developed and wrote about called Kawaida. And that would take us a week to go through what this is all about. Right, so I'm not going to get in all that, but it's a cultural, communal philosophy, and he's known to say, when we talk about political revolution, when we talk about economic revolution, he says that it's not sustainable without the cultural revolution, right? So he's therefore a cultural nationalist. So Kwanzaa grew out of that. It's a component of it. You think about land, and then you got something that grows out of the land. Well, here this thing called Kwanzaa grew out of Kawaida philosophy. So I always want to put that out. I showed those of you who were on last night, I showed you a bunch of books that he had written. I'm not going to do that tonight, but I did want to highlight this one again, Kawaida, but also one of the first Kwanzaa books that he wrote. This one I got at Liberation Bookstore on what was known as Lenox Avenue, but Malcolm X Boulevard, back in like '84. It's comparable to the first one that he wrote in about 66, 67, but this one is copyrighted 77, but it's pretty much the same book. It's very thin, it's to the point, it's extremely raw in terms of how he wrote it, and it's really the reason that I love this book so much, because it was how he was thinking at the time that this was written. When he revised them, they got more scholarly, such as this one here. African American holiday of Kwanzaa, a celebration of family, community, and culture. And then he went on and wrote a much thicker version, which I don't have. I just didn't feel that I needed it at that point. But these are my go-tos. But for the sake of, we've got educators on the call and educators who will see this video later. So this is actually my favorite book that Dr. Karenga has written. Do me a favor, take Salome down for a second so I could get that whole screen. And good to see you, my brother, Principal L. Introduction to Black Studies. This is a thick book. This is over 500 pages, but this is when it was in the original version, which is a little bit shorter, I can't tell you how many times I've read it. It's just countless. All this underscoring and post-its that I had in it and so forth, the cover falling off. But it's just a powerful book, and then he revised it and came out with this one. This is an excellent introductory book in particular. Like Jasmine Harris is on the call right now. She went to Dr. Karenga was her professor at the University of California, Riverside, going back quite a few years. And this was the text that they used, right? She's principal out at Riverside. And so those are the books I wanted to show you. But the other thing I wanted to show you, I got some of the Kwanzaa display behind me. I'm not going to go through all those symbols, but I do want to go through the ones that I put back here. So these three, there's 7 symbols altogether, and then there are 2 supplemental symbols, which I didn't talk about last night. The flag, the red, black, and green, but it's black, red, and green in Kwanzaa. The sequence was changed. And then the 7 principles, the Nguzo Saba. Those are 2 supplementals that belong on the set as well. But for those of you that never practiced Kwanzaa before, don't know what Kwanzaa is, don't know how to celebrate it in your home or within the community, real quick, there's a display. And at the core of the display, at the foundation of the display is a mat, which is pronounced Mkeka, right? Everything is in Kiswahili. And it's pronounced Mkeka. And when you have a Kwanzaa display, when it's set up correctly, everything is on that mat, right? Like I've seen, I've led a zillion Kwanzaa ceremonies. I've attended them. I've sat in on them, whatever. And I'm always disappointed when I see people doing their own thing, or just don't know that there's a proper way of doing things. And I'll give you this example. I've been places where they'll set the cameras up, the candles, which are called Mishu Masaba, and they'll set them up as red, green, then the black, then red, green. And I'm like, no. You got to follow tradition, because it was created in a way that this is the way it was set up. So we can't now be flexible or creative and just do it the way we want to do it. Or they'll have children. This is another thing that really disgusts me. But when it happens, I always correct it. Always. I don't care if it's 1 million people in the room. I come up and correct it. But they'll have children come up and light the candles. And they'll have a child come up and start from left and go right, left to right. So they'll start with the far left-hand side and light that candle. And I got to stop them. Like, no, don't do that. Don't teach them that way. There's a proper way of doing this. And you start with the black candle, which stands for black people, right there in the center. Then you go immediate left, that first red, immediate left, not far left, and you light that one. That's on the second day of Kwanzaa, by the way. Then on the third day, then you go immediate right. So now you got the 3 center candles that are lit, right? And then you keep going left, right until you get to the end. But I'm saying all that to say, because I feel like I'm getting ready to do a Kwanzaa presentation, and I didn't want to. So that Kanara, the candle holder, sits on the mat, right? And then the candles obviously in the Kanara. So here's what I want to do, and this will only take me a couple of minutes. I just want to explain what you see there. The mat symbolizes, because they all mean something. So that mat symbolizes tradition. It symbolizes our foundation. It symbolizes history. It's our history. It symbolizes our culture or cultures, right, among Black people. So that's why everything. So when we talk about the Mazal, we talk about the Zawadi, and we talk about the Muhindi, right? All those other symbols, they sit atop of the mat, because the mat, the Mkeka, is the foundation, right? So then when you have the Kanara sitting on top of the Mkeka, the Kanara symbolizes African people and ancestrally speaking. So the ancestors sitting on top of the Mkeka. So now you've got our people who are standing on tradition, our people who are standing on history, right? But then you got the Misha Masaba, the 7 principles, right? So each candle represents one of the 7 principles. So there's, like I say all the time, there's 2 ways of looking at this. One could say, so the principles are in the people. Or another way of looking at it is the people produce the principles. So if I could supplement or replace the word principles with values. So now you got these values that are sitting in the people, or said differently, these values that have come out of the people. So either way works. But the bottom line is these are values of us that, as Dr. Chester has said a million times over the past couple of years, that Kwanzaa is not confined to this season of December 26th to January 1st. This is just the season of celebration. That's all it is, right? In fact, Dr. Karenga, he's actually got this list of 5 things. What it is, I ain't going into all that, right? But I'll say, y'all read about that, right? It's called the 5 fundamental practices of Kwanzaa. But I'll say this: once we get to January 2nd, because a lot of times people think that Kwanzaa ended on New Year's Eve, right? People don't realize, people that celebrate Kwanzaa anyway, that on January 1st, we're still in it. Right? It's not over. We're still in it. And then January 2nd, I go through this withdrawal every year because the celebratory aspect is gone. I'm like, man, I want Kwanzaa to be here because I'm not a Christmas guy. It has nothing to do with religion, though. It's the commercialization of Christmas. I hate it. I despise it. Right. So, and one of my sons is here and he knows it. Right. I just despise everything's up that it's about in terms of separating it from the Christian part, right? The religious part. So I'm like, I can't wait for December 26th. I can't wait for December 26th so that I can now be within this spirit of Kwanzaa. Right. So that's just a quick overview. There's so much more. I need a solid hour or so to really explain a lot of it. But that's just a quick overview for folks who really don't know it. And there's a lot of us in America who do not know it. And keep this in mind, too, because people talk about, they say, well, it's a made up holiday. Yeah, they all are. Right.
All of them are.
This is just the most recent made up holiday, right? But a man, Dr. Maulana Karenga, 2 PhDs, had the audacity, and really that's the word, the audacity to create a holiday that's stuck. I mean, now you can get a postage stamp that says Kwanzaa. So it's stuck. And that's the thing. But it's up to us if we're going to adhere to the basis of Kwanzaa, and that's the Nguzo Saba.
And with that being said, thanks for that baton, Principal Kapele.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get it up tonight while we're on my little link. But I have written a book and a journal about Kwanzaa because of this very thing for the last 4 years. It's my 4th year saying, oh, I don't want us to stop. Just stop on the 7th day. We just end. And so you got to be a solution. You can't just, if you're not bringing a solution, what are you doing? And so I did write a book about Kwanzaa that talks about the 7 principles. Principal Kafele gonna maybe wait it and wait another at least month. But somebody told me I need to release it in February with Black History Month, but I'm gonna have to go and add a little bit more meat to it. I went straight into the principles, trying to get right into it, but maybe there needs to be some foundational piece to it with talking about the things that we learned after MKK and all those things. And so it won't take me long to get it, but I need to coalesce that piece of it and put in there. But the book is a book that talks about the 7 principles of Kwanzaa in education and leadership. And there are tangible, practical examples of leaders, community leaders, educators across the country, and how they've excelled at a principle and how it has resulted in whatever at their school. So it's going to be talking about the different things like that. And so all types of examples in there from all across the country, from Black Educators Rock, from off school grounds, from NABC, from people who are doing their own consultancies, leaders, community people like the Melanin Market, Don Curling, just different people. And just giving those examples of different people in the Kwanzaa principles. So that's the book. And then there is a standalone and or accompanying 52-week reflection journal titled Living the 7, a reflection journal for purposeful living, leadership, and legacy. And it takes the 7 principles, and we're going to take each principle, and you're going to work that principle for 7 weeks, right? Not just you're going to be in that principle, and it has some cross principle stuff in there. Ask you about how the other principles play in part, but you're reflecting. There's a There's a guiding thought. There's an affirmation. There are different things with it. It's asking you questions. It's really you reflecting. And so you're being able to do this for 52 weeks. So you got the 7 principles. So that's 49 weeks. And the last 3 weeks are reflection weeks. And so I'm excited about that. I'm going to be just taking information for people who would like it as soon as it becomes available. So like a pre-sale like list for those that be ready for it when it comes out. And so, yeah, doing those finishing touches on it now, thanks to Principal Kafele. He made me go back to work.
Go back to work. Yeah, no, well, there's nothing wrong with that, but we all
back in the oven. I thought it was ready, Terrence, but he told me I had to go back in the ovens. But when I come out, I'm going to come out with 3 editions of the journal. There's a personal reflection journal. There is a leadership reflection journal. And there is a group study / PLC or professional learning community workbook, right? So it's facilitator led. And so there are 3 variations to the journal. And so you can work it however you want to work it. If you want to speed it up beyond 52 weeks and tackle it, but it's written for 52 weeks of the year. And so, yes, excited about that. Nice. So moving on. Here we are talking about these great principles. And so we're going to start kind of, Principal Kafele not mentioned it, but we're going to go last. We're going to let you 2 go because we kind of been hogging it for the first part of this. We want to know what is your favorite principle or principles and why. And so I'm going to start with you, Terrence. You want me to go to Lioness first, or you good?
No, I'm following after the architect. Let's just be clear.
Oh.
Let's just be clear.
All that background you got, you kidding me?
Oh, so.
Plus the parents in the Panther Party.
I'm going to say my community and faith tonight, Imani. Faith is, I think, what a lot of times in the Black community, of course, the Bible says, and I hate to get spiritual, the Bible says that faith without works is dead. So we can have faith in our community, but when we are reluctant to do the work, then it becomes a fallacy. So I believe that truly having strong faith in our community and building communities collectively, collective economics, making sure that our communities are growing at a rate that other communities are growing. So faith, community, and just continuing to build within our community will be I think that's my 2.
All righty. Lioness.
So my 2 favorite are Ojima, because we in this work together and we gonna figure it out no matter what it takes. Shout out to my sis April. Thank you very much. And definitely Imani. Because like Brother Terrence, you will see me as a Black woman, but what you don't know is that I am very staunch in my Christian faith, period. So you will see me physically, but things that you don't know about me are rooted in the word. And so faith in general, I think, is what kind of gets me through every space of my life, because we don't really control anything, even though we try to control it. So it's like, Imani, faith is the confidence to really stand when everything around you that you're looking at is telling you, the evidence is telling you to sit down. Like, how do you operate knowing that there's air when you can't see it? You're taking you inhale, but you know the air is there, but you can't see it. You expect to hear and to use all of our senses, but yet we all don't have all these staunch degrees of medicine to really know how everything works. Just birth alone is a miracle. And all of that is through faith, because we knew that there was a word. And because in the beginning was the word, and the word was God, and the word was with God, correct? However, we walk through with that and through that by faith. So faith is more than what anybody could ever label me. No system. My existence is not accidental. My faith is rooted in my ancestors who were laying chained together in the bottom of a boat and did not know what to expect 5 minutes, less 500 years after they arrived here. That's faith. So our faith is what moves me. However, I'm sorry, not however, and Ujima, our collective work and responsibility to one another, you know, that's one of, to me, what I see and what really still grounds me in OSG, period. Because life is going to take all of us in several different directions. But how am I collectively showing up for you? Because that's intentional. So those are my two favorites.
Simone, let me ask you a question, and I hope this is not a leading question. You mentioned the slave ships, and we could have a deeper conversation about that whole experience. But let's just keep it there where you put it. Those slave ships. In what way, if any, does your understanding of that experience influence who you are as an educator?
So I will still say that my understanding is rudimentary. With all of the knowledge and all of the books and all of the mentorship and everything, I don't think there is anything that can ever bring me to this space of me truly having the understanding of the transatlantic experience. And that's a nice way of putting it, experience. However, knowing that there was a person, that prayed when they were walking out the door of no return, because my roots in Africa go to Ghana and Nigeria, and specifically from the Igbo people. And from there, they traveled to the Caribbean, to where both sides of my grandparents had the option to come to the United States of America. So for me, that's a humbling, bent over, grateful experience. And so my grandmother was a praying woman who woke up every morning at 5 a.m. to face the east in a beach chair in our backyard in Brooklyn. And seeing her do that every day, knowing that she sacrificed everything and left everything willingly versus being taken unwillingly, has been so humbling to me, because that sacrifice afforded me to grow up without concern. It afforded me to have education. It afforded me to continue my education. It afforded me all of these unmentionable freedoms that we have, as I am a citizen and a proud citizen of the United States. And so because of that, that's called access, because my grandmother would have no different. And that's that space of access. And so who would I be to not provide and kick down the same kind of doors and provide the access, because my eyes were able to see differently than what the community that I serve. Where my school is physically located might as well be a desert. And
okay, so let's get it back to because I listen, y'all two, you're gonna have to bring on to the AP principal.
My bad, but let me finish. I want to answer the question. Hopefully
we got to move it. It's 8:40.
I'm gonna move it on. So hopefully I answered the question. But to take that, it's in my entire soul to transition and translate and move everything as like the conduit for the children and the community that I serve.
I know the question was around, you asked her about, and before you asked her the question, because when she finished, I was going straight to the quote, when it talks about to believe with all our hearts and our people and the righteousness and victory of our struggle, right? And so it's, do we really believe, again, in us, because our people is us. Do we believe in us? And then do we believe in the righteousness and victory of our struggle? And so when you're talking about all the things that we've been through, not just the transatlantic slave, but all the things that Black people have been through, yet we have come out on top. How could you not have faith, right? How could you not have faith? Because faith, again, is that belief. We said it's that strong and enduring belief that you have, right? So how could you not have that? If you've been a witness to history, if you've studied or been a witness to history, how could you not? And so it makes me, you know, when people say that their favorite one is faith, I would just hope that, as you said earlier, Terrence, that you see that in their actual works, because faith without works, like you said,
Is dead.
Is dead. So I think that's a big issue with people. My favorite two are self-determination and collective work and responsibility. And I think self-determination, to me, because self-determination, to have self-determination, you have faith, right? And I just think about not just my story, but all the people that I know like me who have gone through similar and even worse traumas as children, as young adults, as teenagers, who still get up every day and keep going. Like Jamal, you know, Jamal is somebody you're gonna always hear me edify. Like you're talking about, Jamal is a 29-year-old African American male that is blind, and he went blind at 17, right? And so when I think about self-determination, there has to be faith intermingled in that self-determination for you to keep getting up every time you fall and believing that in spite of it all, you are going to rise. You will rise. You will get up. And so, and then that collective work and responsibility, you know, as I've been saying for the last few nights, I think that a lot of people think they are in collectives, and I think they are. There, we have a lot of organizations and we have sororities, fraternities, organizations. We got nonprofit, we got all these different things we serve in, you know, sisterhoods and all brotherhoods and all these things, all the things, right? All the things, like Miss Black Florida, my girlfriend, Miss Shalita Taylor, here in Jacksonville, likes to say, all the things, right? We have all these things, yet and still, how are we not thriving more? And it's because people come to the collective not to give, but to take. And so what happens is you have a small group in the collective who's just giving it to everybody. They're just giving it out because the load is not being shared. Because many people are coming to the collective to take. And I would just ask people to really introspect, reflect, do some reflection and some introspection, and ask yourself, are you really a positive impact to the collective? Like it says, like the principles believe, you're leaving it better than you found it. You only come into it to improve it and make it better. And so those would be my two. And I know, Principal Kafela, you said you had the same two before we move into all the way.
Kuji Chagalea, Nia. Those are mine because I personalized them in addition to the way that Dr. Karenga explained them, or defined them is a better word.
Oh, that's it. You was going to say something about them, or what you wanted to say? What your definition is?
Who are you talking to?
You.
Oh no! The same thing I said the other day. It's just that, you know, all of these principles are speaking to the community, and I believe in that. However, when we talk about self-determination, I also have taken that and made it a part of myself as an individual, Baruti Kafele. And when you talk about Nia, I've also taken that collective purpose definition, but applied it to me, Baruti Kafele. What is my purpose, and am I walking in it? Right. So, you know, so I use them both in tandem.
All right. So moving into faith. And so like we said, faith is this anchor. It's over here anchoring us. We started with unity and we anchor by faith. If we are started with unity and anchored by faith, how could we fail? How could we not succeed? How could we not? And again, that's why it's really understanding, as Principal Kafela has said, and I've been saying, this is so much more than just a 7-day celebration. It's really, for some, it's a reawakening. For some, it's a sustaining, and for some, it is an awakening. It's a first time, and I know for some of us, this may be like the first time for us to be hearing this information and digesting it, and we might have to go back and listen a couple of times. But what this honestly is about is, as Principal Kafele just so aptly said, when you're talking about purpose, what is my purpose, and am I walking in it? Can I honestly say I'm doing that? And is it mine? Do I own it? Is it mine, or is it someone else's idea of what my purpose is?
Yeah.
Someone else's definition, someone else's vision, right? So ask yourself that. I think that is, we talked about that a few times a few nights ago, Lioness. We talked about like people don't stay in their lanes. Like you get sabotaged because you not staying in your lane of gifting, your lane. God gave something to you, and it may not have been that. And be okay with what it is and grow in that. And so these principles are so much more than just 7 days, Terrence. And so just wondering, when it comes to faith, being anchored in faith, you can't have a faith conversation without having the conversation.
Right.
We got a lot of religious and spiritual people. Us African Americans, why do we think faith is? Do we think our faith as a people is truly strong?
I truly believe that collectively, Black people are the most powerful, dominant race of people on this earth. However, I think that Black people, with all our faith, are the most divided community of people. Like touching back on your point about the different collectives. Like Black people identify as so many different things, but until we consider the fact that we're all Black, we all trying to move the same needle, we're all trying to uplift the same community. I think that it's just disparaging. I've never seen. No, I know you're a soror, but I've never seen adult white women identify as, I've never seen so much divisiveness. Oh, I go to this church, I go to that church, I do this, I'm educated, I'm not. Socioeconomic status. I've never seen the divisiveness in any other culture that I see in my community, which I love my community, but I'm gonna call a spade a spade. So with all this faith, that's why I teach so much financial education and collective economics and group economics, because I have not to ramble on, but I have an Indian family that lives next door to me at my house in Pensacola. And it's a doctor. The dad is a doctor. The son is a dentist. The other son owns a major car dealership. They all live in the same house. And I asked them, I'm like, why do y'all all live in the house together? They're like, well, we buy properties, we buy stores, it just makes sense. And I think that until we get back to a sense of community, yeah, I mean, I definitely have faith in it. But I really would like to see our community like come together as a collective, as one collective, instead of all of these different said groups, so to speak. If that makes sense.
Oh, you think it's too many subgroups, too many?
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like the Willie Lynch theory. Like, yeah, absolutely.
See,
Yeah.
with and I'm gonna be short because I want to yield to Simone, but I don't have a problem with choice, right? There's you got nine, well, the divine nine, but you got other smaller ones out there, but you got those nine larger sororities and fraternities, and then you got various different organizations. We Black people, as well as any people, we're not monolithic people, so we're not all going to gravitate to the same things. So I don't have a problem with that, because I just want to go a tad deeper with that. We talked about this at length last night. This is when we talk about struggle of Black people, my default is always the word consciousness, because when we talk about a people coming together, that's not going to happen just out of the blue sky, right? And they're not just going to like, okay, let's all gravitate to one another and now let's fight this fight. It's not going to happen as long as there's so much lack of understanding, lack of education, lack of enlightenment. When I say education, I mean education that speaks to who we are as a people. I can say definitively, and I say it often definitively, that the only whatever successes that I have professionally in life, whatever folks say they respect and appreciate Principal Kafele, whatever that is, right? Well, it's only singularly because in 1984, I developed this sense of consciousness of who and what I am historically, culturally, and spiritually. And had I not developed that consciousness, then I would not see Black people the way I see them now. I love Black people and I love being Black. And when we make mistakes, it hurts as if it was people that I know. It hurts. So I can't just fall back and hope that Black people just come together. It's not gonna happen. Mm-hmm. So when I ask, and Simone, just as an aside, I'll be in touch because I like Dr. Chester said,
Black people will never come together.
Hang on one second, Terrence. Melissa said, Dr. Chester said, y'all talk about that on the AP New Principles Academy. I want you to come on my academy so we could talk about that, right? So we'll talk later. But here's my point in even saying that. You're an educator, Simone. You're in schools. Well, when we talk about the education, right? If the education is not such, and I will take this to my grave. I've already told my folks, put this on the headstone, right? That until Black children can look into the mirror and recognize historically, culturally, spiritually, who is that? Because right now, in real time, I will not paint with a broad brush and say all children. I won't do that. That's not who I am. But I will say that there are alarming numbers of Black children who look into a mirror and the best they could do in terms of self-identification is the name on their birth certificate, and it stops there, right? But in terms of having that understanding of who I am, who my brother is, who my sister is, and what is our collective role in coming together in fighting this fight and gravitating to the highest of heights. But that's not going to happen by itself. It takes mighty educators, right? And I'm gonna close it this way. Because someone could say to me, someone could write in the thread, I haven't seen it, but they could write in it. Someone could say, but what about the parents? I hear that every day. And I respond to them, what about? Because the parents are victims of the same miseducation as their children. So we think that because mother gave birth to a child, that mom has the answers. No, she's been victimized by miseducation just as being victimized.
You know, because you talk about this all the time. You talk about it on the leadership academy. This is a thing of yours.
Yeah.
However, what many of us have admitted is that we don't know the history as well as we should.
Which is a weapon. See, in order to keep excuse me for interrupt you real quick, Doc. In order to keep a people enslaved, and see, the slave master understood this. That's why, like in some of the more recent Carter G. Woodson books, they'll have like mine, as anybody that's seen me on these platforms, mine is an old copy, right? Very old copy of the Miseducation of the Negro. But if you get a current copy, it has an individual with a chain wrapped around their forehead, right, all the way to the back. And what the message is saying is that as long as a people are ignorant to who they are, then they're self-enslaved. So the slave master understood that. So therefore, we have to ensure.
Let me finish. You want to know what I was going to say to you. You ain't let me.
I got my church finger up when because I don't heard Principal Kafele called on me a few times, so I'm just waiting.
He went off script. What I was going to say was, many of us don't know the education, right? Because you said these babies got to know, right? And we know we got a lot of educators, and we've said this before, that are teaching children. They don't know. They don't know.
They don't know.
They don't have the capacity nor the bandwidth now to go and do it. So when is someone going to create something like a place that we can all go virtually, a world or whatever, and we go and we can learn these things?
Now, did I not share last night? I did that as a principal and a teacher. I created that African-centered school.
Me too.
Yeah, so
and it outperformed America.
And now,
right? But I'm not there now. And there was nothing that came behind me to replicate it.
So, can I put my church finger up real quick?
Church finger.
All right, my little church finger up real
That's
quick.
What we're saying. We need to. We're not incorporating the work of any of these people into it.
Right. So, and shout out to my sis. That's my NCNW council sister. She's the president of one of the sections, Flatbush section in Brooklyn, Dorielle. So we learned during the pandemic that parents are not certified teachers. Let's recall and remember that. Parents, absolutely, we can say they are a child's first teacher. We set, I'm speaking as a parent, we set the foundation and the groundwork, and then we send our children to school. But the reason why I'm hopping in my seat, Principal Kafele, is because the reason why a lot of schools or educators in general are not knowledgeable is because the courses do not exist for us as we're getting our certification. And so, just happening to go to the topic of my dissertation, part of and parcel of what I am exploring is how critical it is for pre-service adults who are seeking their certification to have coursework in this very space. And so some of the interviews really touch on this topic. What does your classroom even look like before the babies even get there? How do they see themselves when they show up in your room? It could be pretty, it could be colorful, you could be the best artist in the world. But until that little boy can pick up a book and see himself in the book, until he can look around the wall and see himself and his family and his friends, until they can have books like I Love My Hair and physically and tangibly touch the different textures of what that's supposed to be, they will not make an alignment to who they are intangibly. And understandably, all of that's active faith. That's active faith, because we have to, as you mentioned, actively believe, going back to what you said about you made the intentional decision in 1984, the active belief in ourselves, the active belief in our people, the active belief in the ancestors, the active belief in our purpose, and the active belief in our future. And in order to do that for the future, it starts with the foundation of the very babies that we see when they enter. It can't start in 8th grade. It can't start in 12th grade. It can't start in 5th grade. It must start the moment they walk in the building of the schoolhouse. And the people responsible, yes, it's a collaboration with families. The people responsible is us in the schoolhouse. So how am I setting up my building through all of the bureaucracy and all of the foolishness that I already have to work through? Because I got to stay on payroll, but at the same time, still honor the ancestors who acted on blind faith when they was on the bottom of the boat. So the babies, again, if there were no pre-service if there was no pre-service coursework for the teachers who are coming into our school settings, then I'm blaming it on the principal. Because what did you do?
Now, here's the thing. I guess, because I guess maybe I'm missing it, because we've been having this conversation. Some of the stuff you said we've been saying all week. But what you just said about the principal. So there's a quote that says, "In a system of oppression, you are either a revolutionary or an oppressor," right? Period. But from what you just said, because I'm going by what I said, what Dr. Sheikah said. You all are expecting the very thing. You're expecting there's never going to be this type of.
I didn't say I expected it. I never said I expected it. I never said I expected it.
So what somebody has to do is create it, right? So, and it has to be, it's not going to come from them. It has to be another source that, and so those educators who really want to be, they'll have to go get it elsewhere because they're never going to provide that. We're never going to see that.
Hey Doc, let me show you something.
I don't know about we never gonna see it, but again, I never said I expected it. I'm just saying what doesn't exist.
Doc, let me say this, and I'm loving the conversation. Listen, you just gave that quote, but let me show you. Let me tie you and Simone together now. You gave that quote, but that quote came from the author of this book. It's called "Before the Mayflower" by Lerone Bennett Jr. Right? I'm saying, so here's where I'm coming from, where Simone talked about pre-service. I preach this all over America, that any teacher training program, pre-service, there's 4 minimal books that you must read. Number 1, Before the Mayflower by Lerone Bennett Jr. Now, the sister that had all the Amos Wilson books and all the others that I agree with that. But in terms of interest, because we're talking about people who do not know the story. And when I say that, I'm not just talking about white teachers now.
Right, we're not. Yeah,
I'm talking about black teachers
anybody
that are clueless.
The mass majority
to our story. So Before the Mayflower is where this author is where that quote came from. So Before the Mayflower, I'm saying that any teacher of black children minimally must read this book, read it, study it, and understand it. Number 2, From Slavery to Freedom by John Hope Franklin. Number 3, Introduction to African Civilizations by Dr. John G. Jackson. And then number 4, the one I just referenced, wherever I put it, here it is, The Miseducation of the Negro. Okay. I'm saying that, as Simone is saying, I'm just giving titles, that you can't come into that classroom ill-informed, unprepared, lacking of knowledge of who the children are that are sitting in that classroom, because you cannot bring the argument that children are children. No, these are black children with an experience that is very unique unto who they are. So what kind of training?
But I guess, Principal Kafele, we know this. Like this is the thing. Like what we're saying, what you and Simone, what you and Linus are saying, we know this. My question is, how do we move to implementation? Because we know, okay, if you're saying these are the 4 books, what can happen to make these, like, this is what I think. This is what I think. You got
two on here right now. Because I studied since I knew that Simone was coming on. I studied her today. That's what I do. I don't come on these platforms with these and not researching. Right? I want to know who I'm gonna be on here with.
Right. But I know you studied it. But
did I pass?
So what I was about to say is,
she's lioness, just like you said.
Right? Taken on by doing organizations that support teacher education programs. Like I said, I know with Black Education, I've said for a while, we should go into HBCU where education programs are. The education programs are being deleted and taken out. So now another option has to happen. And so there has to be somewhere they can go to get this. We know that they need it. We've been saying that for years. We've been saying that for decades.
I got 2 short answers.
But not only HBCUs, because the majority of us don't go to HBCUs. Yeah, so it can't only be.
I said for me. I didn't say for everybody. I said what I was going to do with Black Education Rock.
I'm gonna give you 2 short answers.
I'm saying in addition to.
I said what Black Education Rock was going to do.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I'm gonna give 2 short answers, and I'm gonna yield. 2 organizations. Number 1, the Black Educators Rock. Mm-hmm. We have to come together and discuss the question that's on the floor. That's number 1. I'm done with it right there. Number 2, as you know, I'm president-elect of the New Jersey National Alliance of Black School Educators affiliate. So I've already let them know where we are in this conversation right now. This is why I threw my name in the hat to become president-elect, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's this word called advocacy, and the advocacy has to be there at that collegiate level that you're talking about, that teachers are being properly trained to
Mhm.
walk into a classroom and to be successful. Because like I'm watching football today, and the coach of Alabama will probably be fired, right? Because of the blowout of 38-3 from
Mhm.
a school of 9 stars, right? Indiana University, right? So you take that and transfer it to a classroom. If you bring inept people into a classroom, particularly where the vacancies are, where they're black children, and then we expect black children to be successful when you got inept people in a classroom with them, but those are where the jobs are, it's not going to happen. So on the one hand, the university, but on the other hand, when you got leadership, man, right? If it didn't happen, because see, make no mistake about it, my teachers knew who Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen was, and 50% of my teachers were white. They knew who Dr. John Henry Clark was. They were exposed to Dr. Chancellor Williams. They were exposed to Dr. Dr. Diop. They were exposed to Amos Wilson, and Jawanza Kunjufu, and I can go on and on. They're exposed to these people. So when the test scores come out, I'm outperforming America because I'm making sure that the children are being exposed to material, content, subject area material that speaks to who they are so that they see themselves in the learning, they see themselves on the pages, and now we increase the probability that they're going to be successful. So I'm putting the onus on the one hand on the university through organizations who engage in advocacy, but I'm also putting the onus on us as leaders. Right. And if we're in leadership in school and we don't know what we've been talking about here, we don't understand that. We think that a generic education is going to pull us out of the mud that we're in. Because see, here's the other thing. You had said, despite all the ills of history, we found ourselves on top. I don't use that language. I said, no, we ain't on top. We survived it.
Mm-hmm.
But we hurting. We hurting big time in all institutions, right? We survived it, but we ain't victorious, right? So, but
yes, my thing when I was saying on top, it was literally on top of the mess. Not we know we ain't.
I get it. But my starting place is these places that I call factories of miseducation. Factories of miseducation. They are doing what they were designed to do. They are turning out failing, apathetic, detached, underachieving black children. They were not designed for black children to be successful. So therefore, any principals on here right now who will see the video later, I challenge you right now. If you're not going in there with a black consciousness, but you got black children in that school, then you are probably doing your children a disservice.
And because it's not just educators on the call, all of us aren't educators. This is for leaders, and like so when Dr. Renee was on, he was not speaking from the K-12 space, he was also speaking from
but as a principal, we still need the support of the organizations and the people. It doesn't even have to be an official organization. I know in order to make the work that I can't do it alone, and therein comes the collective work and responsibility. I'm also a member of Black Influencers Rock, led by the head honcho president, Dr. Shango Blake, and that everything of what you're saying, Principal Kafele, absolutely speaks to the purpose or one of the principles of how we operate in BU. So it's one thing to want to do it. It's another thing of walking through you ever like, well, not most of
it because you cut me right, and I let you cut me, and I let you keep talking. I was talking, you cut my sentence right off.
I'm sorry. I don't know if it's my computer, but some things are kind of choppy right now.
Y'all sticking on schools, and I want to pull it a little broader from schools, because the talk has not just been about principals. So because we have people from everywhere on. I was speaking about it, and then you said we need the organizations.
Hey Doc, let me just respond to you real quick. Here, and I promise I'm gonna yield back to you. Here's why I get so passionate when I have opportunity to talk school, because when you watch when you watch a campaign, right? Some folks running for president, particularly. Notice education is never mentioned. The only thing we've heard about education in under this administration is the dismantling of the Department of Education, right? But outside of that, there's no mention whatsoever in those campaigns. Kamala and the other guy, nobody's talking education. And education should be at the forefront of anybody's presidential campaign because we're talking about the future of a country. Right, but that's not discussed. That's on the back pages of the tabloid, right? Nobody's talking about no education. So that's why I get that there's other things, there's other components to our struggle. I get it, but I always seize the moment to talk about that thing that never gets discussed, and that's education.
Yeah, no, so the thing about education is what education is changing before our very eyes, and we're as a people, we're not paying attention to that. That's why it's not being discussed, because what it is now is different. That's a whole nother conversation that I have to do, that I'm gonna have to be bringing on people like Ronnie King, who is he teaches kids here how to, they're building their own apps and Dr. Philip Hickman, those people who are in that space. Rob, because it's changing the way we know it. And I think that's why we're still operating as if it's 1978, some of us in the classroom. We're still, there's so much that we are behind on when it comes to education. That's why, because the way that we know education is completely going to be different. But what we know is that there are some things that are going to be universal. And this is one: knowing thyself. No matter what's going on, no matter what's going to be the education vessels, you need to know who you are and what you are in order to be successful in a world that's built for you not to be successful. That this world is built for you that look like me not to be successful, no matter what people try to say. The evidence is overwhelming. And so with that, I want to spend the last few minutes on just, because this is about faith and belief, and we said faith without works is dead. And so I know we're talking about this. I want to spend some time talking about it because Dr. O'Neill tried to get in it with us a little bit. We didn't get as into it as I wanted to. He was talking about like how he's saying people got to start the Saturday schools, and he's doing the Young Gentleman King school that he does in Mississippi. And we have to start putting things in place, start to educate. So because we're getting more and more, well, a few teachers to come out, ain't more and more no more. The teachers, education department's like.
To get people to come out on a Saturday requires consciousness, though, because that's because those folks are not going to be paid, right? So you got to have the consciousness to come out on a Saturday after working all week in your classroom to do that extra day on a Saturday morning. It's not that it can't be done, because it is done. Freedom schools accepted.
I guess I still go back to virtual.
But the point is, they're still going to be working.
And my fear of Saturday is there's so many sports kids are in. There's just so much going on. It doesn't, maybe not necessarily a Saturday school, but things like Saturday school. Maybe it's something that you do in the evening time. Maybe it's something, maybe it's something they can listen to. It's a podcast. It's a way to get it out there. What I'm saying is that community way of educating and advocating for one another has to be the model that we employ and duplicate and replicate, because we're falling farther and farther behind. Like you said, we're definitely not winning. As I said, we're only surviving, which I've been saying the last fortnight, is because alone, you go at it alone, you're going to survive. Together, you'll thrive. And so you'll thrive and build empires, but we are choosing to go at it alone. And so we have to get out of that space. Because as we've been talking about for these last three principles, it's about the little babies now, right? So it's really these last three principles: purpose, creativity, and faith. Those really are about our little ones. Those really are about the little ones, and what are we leaving them? And so I'm just wondering,
what are we pouring into them?
Teachers in the classroom who don't know, but they're teaching. How can we immediately impact them so that while they have those babies, they're being impacted? What can we do because there's so much, like I said, it's so many teachers that don't have a concept of self. How are you expecting me to teach these little ones? I just what do we do to get
And
there?
in today's climate, in your red states, it's illegal to do it anyway.
But what's not illegal is for somebody to be intentional about what they choose to read, spaces they choose to be in, organizations they choose to support, community service that they choose. All of that acting, bringing it back to Imani, bringing it back to faith. How do you intentionally choose to show up? So, so Principal Kafele, keep wanting to call you Dr. Kafele, you know. So,
everybody does.
So, it's, again, you know, what, even though everybody, you know, that's here is not an educator, how are we choosing to show up in 2026? Today is Imani. What faith are you putting through so that you are going to be the answer to the ancestors' prayer? How are you showing up? Through faith. I'm just looking at all of the comments that are coming through. I'm still on. I can only see the ones that are being put up from our screens.
So big, I put them up there, be in y'all face.
Yeah.
You know something. Well, let's look at the definition of Imani, right?
Mm-hmm.
Believe with all of our heart in our people, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. I've always struggled with that definition.
Yeah, believe with your whole heart.
Yeah, I none of these I can believe in. Right? It's like it's an idea. It's something to aspire to. But as it stands now, and I have the privilege, as you know, as being an independent consultant, of being in schools, being in classrooms, and seeing the education beyond when I did it as a teacher and a principal. I get to see it. So this is saying believe with all our heart in our teachers. I'll just go to that one. Well, right now I can't, right? Based on the evidence. Believe with all our heart in our parents. Well, I can't just yet because of the evidence. The evidence says that there are children who are going home to households that are counterproductive, for lack of a better word, right? So it begs the question, well, what is being done? Which is really where you've been all night, Dr. Chester. What is being done as it relates to those teachers? What is being done as it relates to those parents so that a youngster can go home to a nurturing household as opposed to a household that is counterproductive toward his or her growth and development, right? But that's, you know, it's something to aspire to, but it's not something that, you know, that I could do right now.
But faith is in the unseen work.
I guess for me, you said send them home. I guess for me, I think there are things being done because you can't per se change that household, but what you can change is how that child experiences that household because you're supporting them, school, outside, community resources. So when they're in that home, they're understanding that. But simultaneously, we do need to be figuring out ways to help the home. And that, like you said, that's a task. That's a task. That's a task. And I think I don't know how do we ever get there. But I think the thing is, have we ever truly looked at the percentages, the numbers? Because there's always going to be a percentage that you can't save. It's always going to be a percentage that you can't save. We just have to be realistic about that and assess things and spend necessary time, but know when to withdraw from things and just I think that's the thing. Like if that home is clean and there's food there, that's all we wanted to have. It's small. Some things are just it's gonna be enough. Just if I got a healthy, clean house, right? So I grew up poor. My mama. We didn't have a washing machine and a dryer, but everything was always clean. We ate, but so that was the best that my mother was going to be able to do, right? That was the best she was going to be able to do. But was that bad?
But that's why wraparound services are so helpful, you know, so that whatever's lacking at home, if we're talking about a district or a school, that has those wraparound services that are going to provide for young people, there's a higher probability then that young person can still achieve success. But the answer to the question, no, it's not bad. You know,
right, because that was good. It was a clean. It was the project, yes, but it was clean. I was well fed, because when you said success, and I think that's the thing. Again, it's that's a real subjective thing.
yeah,
Success.
yeah. Whatever, however it's being defined, because it means a zillion different things to a zillion different people. But you know something, fam, I had when I became a high school principal, it was interesting. I had a large cluster of young people. I used to have, my office was very nice. It had nice carpeting, couches and chairs and so forth. So at the end of the day, late into the day, they would come to my office. I'd work late, sometimes till 8 and 9 o'clock, and they would hang out with me. So then I would say, all right, y'all got to go, man. You got to go. And they didn't want to go. I'd have to drive all over north, taking them home. So I said, why don't you want to go home? Because we like it better here, right? Mm-hmm. So then I started, you know, as a teacher, I would visit homes daily, like 5 days a week, I'm in somebody's home, right? That's part of why we had the success we had. But as a principal, I kind of got away from that. But then when I saw that these kids would not go home, we have a varsity basketball game on a given night. The game ends at 9. I go back to my office to get some things done. It's 10 o'clock, and they hanging with me in my office. I said, all right, I'm coming to your home. So I would go to some of their homes, right? And the only way I could describe it, I walked into hell. And then I understood why they wanted to spend all this time with me. I didn't understand when I was an elementary teacher, middle school principal, no kid ever called me dad, father, that type of thing. When I became a high school principal, and I kid you not, I had an entire school of girls that referred to me not as Mr. Kafele, but as dad, as pop, as father. And I tried to stop it. I brought my women's staff together. I said, y'all got to help me. We have to stop this, because I was new there. They say, why would you stop it? I said, because I'm not their father. They said, but you didn't ask them to call you dad, did you? I said, you know I didn't. They said, well, don't you realize that you're filling a void in their lives? And that's why they're referring to you as dad, right? So then as I looked at it further, I said, all right, I'm going to let it ride. And letting it ride meant now I got a whole school. Hey, dad, the one that was on the call last night that came on the screen, Chrissy Nicole, she never called me Mr. Kafele. She's probably 40 now, still calling me dad on Facebook, right? So what I'm saying to you is I was able to discern I got girls who are angry for reasons that we don't even suspect. They ain't angry at each other. I got girls in my school who are angry because their father is not in their lives. They're ticking time bombs, but not the reasons that we would speculate and generalize. Is because I just want my father. So I don't have him. So I'm taking you, buddy, you my father for these next 4 years. That's what it was, right? So I can't even fix that. But all I can do, which we did, we went and searched for them fathers and brought them in. And say, we're going to have to talk, because I got girls that want you. But the same thing with my boys. 95% of my boys self-identified as Blood, Crip, Grape, Latin King, and MS-13. That's my whole school. 95% of them. So they're dealing with the same thing, but it just looked different. It felt different. It sounded different. They ain't calling me dad. They too cool. But they hanging around me, right? So
I think that's still happening. I think that's still happening all across the country. I think
I know
things that are still happening. Those are the actions that we need with the faith, that things are going to, that we're gonna turn it around. I think that we just have to get more conscious and more intentional about making sure that we're conscious and intentional about what we're doing for little ones. What are we leaving them? Like we have talked about last night and the night before, we talked about the fact that these babies, it's not their fault. If they're not getting the tools, the resources, what they need to be successful, it is not on them, it's on us and the generation before us. because we are responsible, because we turned out the way we did because others were sowing and pouring into us. And so, I challenge everyone to just ask yourself, if you're not an educator and you're not, even if you're from start with educator, if you're an educator, you're in the classroom, are you truly serving your children?
Yeah.
Like, are you really serving your children? Are you really trying to help them? Are you building them strong so they don't have to be repaired later on? And then those of us who are not educators, I'm asking you, are you helping in whatever facet? Sorority, fraternity, are you helping to serve the youth? Are you giving back? How are you giving back? Because we talked and we skirted around a lot, Terrence, and Dr. O'Neill and we was trying to get into it a little bit last night, but we kept kind of getting pulled back into it. But these babies in trouble. These babies in trouble. They in trouble because of us. And it ain't getting better out here. It's getting worse. And so at some point, we got to stop worrying about all these broken adults, because we spend a lot of time on broken adults. We do. Yeah. And we got to work with these veterans. All the programs that used to be around that were designed to help children, underrepresented, underserved children, have all gone away, even though research shows that these programs and services had great success. They had impact. So that tells you. The National Youth Sports Program, NYSP, I attended that at Bethune-Cookman in Daytona Beach. Upward Bound, I attended that at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. I was a little girl from Soul City Projects flying on planes on the weekend because I was in an Upward Bound program. It was what made me want to go to college.
Yeah.
They got rid of these types of programs.
Yeah.
Don't exist anymore. And we sit around and watch these things happen and are not conscious or cognizant as to why it's happening. More and more children don't have anywhere to go. Yet we're taking away the safe spaces and places for them to go. Make it make sense. The only one that's still around is Police Athletic League and Boys and Girls Club. And what's the other one? Boys and Girls Club and the mentor. The big boys, big brothers, big sisters.
Big brothers, big sisters. Hey, Doc, could you highlight on the screen April Leon for us?
That's my sister.
I know.
That's my sis right there.
Check out what she said. Again, are the educators clear on the role they play in the oppressive cogs of the machine? That's it right there.
To the for the revolutionaries going
the
right
OSP?
Yeah. And I think we've been saying all night, iterating what has been stated repeatedly. Are we aware of it? Are people conscious of it? Terrence, you were about to say something?
No, I was saying, I don't know. I've been holding, but I guess I'll play devil's. I'm not an educator. I do teach financial education. I'm a certified financial counselor. I teach hundreds of children each and every year about the importance of
That's good work. Management. That's good work.
But what I hear is we had black schools. Like we had black schools with black educators, black children. And now we are, how do we convince the oppressor to coddle or to empathize with our black children within a white construct? And for me, I'm getting older. I'm only 45, but I'm just trying to understand that ideology of how I know Doc said that educators need to read certain books so that they can identify, so they can rationalize or be able to relate to the children. But what does that look like? Like, how do we convince white people in a white educational system to, I guess, adapt to the needs of our black children?
But you adjusted your question, because the first time you asked it, you used the word oppressor, and the second time you asked it, you used the word white. So you asked two different questions. I want to go to the first question in terms of my answer. Oppressor, and I'm gonna answer it with a question. I'm gonna throw it back at you. Why would an oppressor want to properly educate black children? If just by the definition of oppressor, my role is to oppress you, not to educate you. It is to destroy you. That's my role based on what it means to be an oppressor. So I'm not going to empathize with your plight. I'm going to crush you. That's what an oppressor does.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now if you say white, then that's a different conversation, because I know that all whites are not oppressors.
Mm-hmm.
You say oppressor, then the oppressor, because right now, when you talk about Washington, the oppressor is being very effective. Right? If one was a cheerleader for the oppressor in the White House, he's doing a fabulous job. Right? But if we talk about it in the education space, then the dismantling of the Department of Education, because we know that Black children benefit from that from that department. So now let me dismantle it altogether. So you talk about that's oppression to the nth degree. But the question is, and I don't want to turn this into a political conversation, but the question will become, what will be the accountability with the midterms? What will we do?
Mm-hmm.
Are our people so asleep that that their response will be, oh well, my vote doesn't count? Will we be that asleep and therefore allow him to sustain power for 2 more years? Because if we're awake and we're conscious, then we will exercise our right to vote,
Mm-hmm.
and then we could and then he'll be a lame duck for 2 years, right? But as an oppressor, that's what oppression is. So he's doing what he's doing what his constituency voted for him to do.
I guess it's when are we gonna realize that? And like Dr. April said, which that's the Avenger. When I said we have names like the Avenger, or Dr. April, the one that's speaking, President Quayle that you were talking about, that's the Avenger. And I mentioned her earlier. But with the names,
April
is the Avenger.
April Leon.
April Leon.
Yes.
What borough she in?
Brooklyn. You know.
What part of Brooklyn?
Well, you know, she right now where she lives, we're from.
No, where she works.
Oh, she works all over. She's now, you know, put it in the chat, Dr. April. Right now, she oversees the city's students in temporary housing programs for DOE.
Okay, we're pushing on. We're pushing on, but that's not what we're talking about in the live.
He asked the question. I just wanted to be obliged to answer.
Chat. I was going back to her statement because I brought up her name. Dr. April said, which we have been talking about, like we keep saying this, and we're saying it in different ways. The whole goal of Kwanzaa is to have either a reawakening or an awakening. Understand what role do you play in oppressive systems? When we're saying in a system of oppression, you're either a revolutionary or an oppressor. That means that you're participating in the oppression. Are you cognizant that you're participating in it? And do you understand that you could be unconsciously participating in it? You have no idea that you are just by simply not knowing who you are. You not being whole. You not being well. You coming to school every day broken. You coming to school every day barely making it. That within itself is a detriment to the village. It's a detriment to it. It's oppressive, right? Are you aware of how you contribute to the oppression? And are you courageous, as we talked about last night, because we talked about courage last night. Are you courageous enough to say, you know what, I'm not going to be a part of that? And the thing is, you know, the reason that people were able to be more courageous back in the day is because they had more unity than we have.
True indeed.
That's that, because when we say it stands on, that's what we mean by it. It's all it is on that. The reason that they were able to accomplish the things that they were able to accomplish is because they did it together. There was unity. So I wasn't so afraid to stand up and say something because I knew I had a brother and a sister, some sisters and brothers who was going to have my back. And again, we've moved into this individual. Again, I always say these principles, like they're so intertwined, right? Listen, we got to have each other's backs. The unity is pertinent to the survival of the oppressor. And so, Dr. April, you asked that question. And so I asked that question to people. One, are you aware that you're oppressing? And isn't it because you feel like you by yourself that you feel like you have to oppress, like you have to be a part of that system? But it is about the unity. It's about the unity. You got to show up in numbers. If you show up in numbers, there's nothing they can do.
So speaking of pedagogy of the oppressed, Paulo Freire teaches us that faith in people is required for liberation. And Dr. April, the name of her school was Liberation High School. But again, that belief can only really come in where people can really name their reality and transform it. And so coming back to Imani, that is faith and work in action. Just wanted to put that out there.
All right. Well, I think it. I think we're a little over time. Yeah, just 5 minutes. So I guess we did well. Terrence, did you have another question before we take final remarks? Did you? Because I know y'all. I don't know if you got it answered when he asked you the question back. I don't know if it was answered.
No, it's enlightening to be on the call. I respectfully, with such accomplished educators. Because a lot of times, I guess the way I look at a lot of things is a little different. I'm not an educator. I just feel like a lot of times, even my uncle Kenny and I had this conversation all the time. Like it's like the same black people that wanted to desegregate schools are the same black people complaining about how black children correlate or sustain within white constructs.
Do you think that's because they had good intentions, but
it's confusing? To me, it's confusing.
Well, that's because I think the intentions were there, but it was the ideology, right? So to your point, when you talk about desegregation, like why were we fighting so hard to intermingle with the people that did not like us? Like how were laws going to just change that? Like, but we can't understand the ideology of them back then. But to me, we can because I see us still trying to do that kind of stuff, right? I see it in real time, in real time practical application, right? With these, and you can say it's a stretch if you want to, but it's like when I talk about with them saying wearing their name brand. What am I going to buy? What am I going to buy something for when someone has articulated publicly that they don't make it for me? What in my soul? How could I care so little about myself and not value me and my dollars and the way I work for these dollars and say, I'm going to go buy it anyway. I'm going to show him. I'm going to go buy it anyway. What in me is so broken? So because that's the question. Because because when you're saying you don't understand it, but I see it now in real time and you see it every day. And do you understand it? Because you see it, right? I've seen grown men and grown women tell me to my face, I don't care what time of year figure say, I'm gonna still wear it. I don't care that he don't want me to wear 10 minutes. I'm gonna still buy. I'm like, huh? Wait, what? Make it make sense. Make it make sense for me. So when we're saying that, I guess when I said I'm trying to understand that ideology, I think it's the lack of consciousness may not have been there to the level that it needed to be because it's a proactive thinking that you have to have. It's proactive, and so they like that's why Dr. Martin Luther King he tried to change it at the last minute. He said hey, we run into a burning building. What are we doing? Like this is not the way. And so it's just like why are we still now in 2025 still expecting that to be the way?
We have to do it ourselves.
And you respect me, you got to let me in and let me. Why?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be a David Downer, but I just.
This it. And until there's recognition of who that is in one's own mirror, the most fundamental question that one could ask oneself is, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And you got so many of us that cannot answer that question. And I don't mean as an individual, but I mean collectively. Who am I in terms of the people that I'm a part of? Who am I historically? Who am I culturally? Who am I spiritually? And you and again, going back to our former slave master, there was no way to sustain that system as long as those who you enslave could answer that question. right? So take away the ability to read and write, and take away the lack of the ability to learn the history, right? Well, now we talked, like the other day, a couple of days ago, we were talking about differences in culture. Well, a lot of those islands in the Caribbean, they're able to sustain culture versus the way it worked in America, right? So hence you see these differences. You even see these differences in consciousness in some, because the culture, I don't want to say it was intact, but I do want to say that there were elements of the culture that were sustained throughout enslavement that we did not see replicated on the shores of America.
I agree. Well, I'm good. I'm going to take us around for final thoughts. I'm going to start with Lioness.
So I will be the Debbie Upper, because I still believe in people. And again, I will always go back to Ujima. And Imani is that work within the people. And because, we have, without works and faith, all of things is dead. But say, we're talking about pedagogy of the oppressed. We were talking about faith and liberation and all of that. And so I think, the who am I question, not the Beanie Man version, but who am I? That's something that we look at throughout our entire lives. Because while I'm still Simone, I'm the Lioness. I'm Christopher Houston's mother. Stafford Nicholas Jr.'s wife. I'm all of these things. And I'm also the child, as I mentioned. Yes, got it.
I'm putting it there because April just mentioned it.
Oh, yes. So, what I'm really saying is the big things I can do and the small things I can do, whether it's as an educator or as a transformational servant there, or as a community servant with, by myself or through organizations, I will still believe in people, because that's what the word tells me to do. Love God first and love people. And that's why I will always work through faith, because it's not silent. It's always moving, even when we can't see it. So I'm always grateful, to be in the space with these powerhouses. Thank you for letting me get my little tidbits out a little bit. And, even after this call, I'm still going to operate through faith, because that's just who I am. And I'm grateful, for the ancestors for praying for me, even though they didn't know I was coming until 1971.
Thank you, Lioness. Terrence?
Well, thank you again for affording me the opportunity to join you on this illustrious platform. I think that my message to any educators on the call, I had an event in Pensacola on the 17th of December where we were able to give about 80 kids with brand new shoes, name brand shoes, because I know how bullying is and how kids can be. But we talked to them about mentorship, entrepreneurship, and tradesmanship. And I think that with those three pillars intertwined into the educational system, a lot of times we stigmatize trade school. And my richest friend owns a plumbing company. So I think that a lot of he don't do no plumbing. He don't do no plumbing. So that would be my message. Thank you so much. Let's keep the faith.
Thank you, Principal Kufele.
Yeah. First, I want to just thank the folks, the fam that tuned in today, and also the folks who will watch this video later on. Appreciate you being here and also throughout the week. I've been on watching for the ones I wasn't on. So just want to thank people for seeing it, as they were saying in church, seeing it not robbery, and joining us 8 o'clock for 7 days. As we have these very important conversations. But in terms of faith, yeah, I'm with my colleagues. I have to continue to believe, right? I have to continue to have faith, and even if I don't have faith in certain people, in certain roles, the place where I will always sustain my faith is in myself, right? So if I'm in environments where things are not going the way they should, then I'm going to maintain my faith that I'm bringing something that's going to help somebody to become better at what they do. as it relates to educating or leading or even counseling, in this case, Black children, right? So, hey fam, and this is probably not the group I need to say this to, but I'll say it anyway, just because I'm closing. Keep reading, y'all. You know, study our story. It's a rich story. It's an empowering story. It's an inspiring story, right? Just keep reading. Just keep reading. Ensure your children are reading, right? Your extended family children are reading, because at the end of the day, and you know, this is probably just my own cultural nationalism. You know, Dr. Karenga was always one of my favorite scholars. So you know, so at the end of the day, if again, the political revolution, the economic revolution, but that cultural revolution is what sustains it, right? You can't talk political revolution, economic revolution, and not talk that cultural revolution. That matters, right? It matters exponentially. So again, keep reading. And if you haven't read The Miseducation of the Negro lately, because it was written in 1933, as a matter of fact, Dr. Chester, let me just say this. This is 1926 now, right? So here we are, the 100th anniversary of what was called Negro History Week is next month in February. So therefore, Black History Month is celebrating its 100th anniversary in February. For those out there in the world who say we don't need a Black History Month anymore, I say facetiously, man, you crazy, right? Because it's necessary, because it's not meant for February is the only time to read, study, research Black history. It means that February is just a 28-day holiday. That's all, right? The history is lifelong in terms of the reading, the study, the teaching, the research, etc. That's lifelong. But most holidays, in fact, all holidays except Kwanzaa is 7 days. Everybody else is 1 day. Well, Black history is just a month-long holiday. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually a good thing. But it's also a launch pad into the rest of the year to continue to study, to continue to grow intellectually, and then to come all the way back to Kwanzaa, then the King Month, where we study King, and then we go right back and start the process all over again. So I'll end it on that note.
Well, guys, it's night 7, so no more Kwanzaa celebration virtually. But as we said, this is something that is supposed to happen 365 days of the year. Trying to get this book finished. I was trying to have it finished for this, but I didn't. I was like, I need to have it done, but I didn't, because it's off getting some, whatever they call it, getting placed in placement and the cover and all that stuff. And so it didn't get done in time because it's the holidays and it's my fault. But we want you to intentionally start to implement the principles of Kwanzaa, these values, as has been said by everybody who has touched this space this week. Guys, we have to do it together. We have to do it together. And it starts small. It just starts with us looking at who we are and doing and being better. Because we have to leave these babies something better than what we leaving them, y'all. We are doing our children a disservice if we do not get it together. And so I'm challenging you all to take the principles and make them come alive in your homes and families, in your communities, in your schools. And so with that, Principal Kafele, do you want to tell them how we're going to close out and close us out?
Yeah. And let me say this real quick. When we end, right? Like keep us on, keep us the four of us on, because I need to get Simone's information. I got her LinkedIn stuff, but that don't always work.
Come back. That's y'all. If y'all pop out, we're gonna go backstage.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, backstage. Yeah, y'all. You know, I don't want to do it because we're not in a forum, you know, in a place, but I just want to explain it real quick. At the end of any Kwanzaa program, depending on what day of the week, we want to call the community together, and that's called Harambe. And you simply throw your hand up with your hand wide open, and you pull it down as if you're pulling something from the sky, and you close your hand into a fist, and you yell out Harambe. I don't want to do that on virtually, you know, I've done it before and I hate it, but you it's like you reaching for something and you pull it with vigor, right? And you say Harambe, right? And then so if it's the first day of Kwanzaa, then the whole the whole group would do it one time. Right. If it's the 5th day of Kwanzaa, then the whole group will do it. Because that's another thing that gets me, man. I'm at a unity program, Umoja, the first day, and they want to do 7 Harambes. It's just not the way you got to do things the way it's done. We can't violate our own holiday, right? So it's so on the only time you do Harambe 7 times is on the 7th day. That's it, right? No other day. So it's just it's yelling out Harambe, and then on the last Harambe, you hold it. So Harambe as long as you can while you got your fists, and then the program is officially over, right? You know, people can stay and talk to one another, but the formal program has come to a conclusion, right? So it's just there's formality, there's protocol, you know, there's ritual when it comes to Kwanzaa, and folks just can't, you know, they excited about it and they want to be a part of it, but you can't just be creative and just do your own thing, because at some point then we'll lose it. It'll morph into something else because there was no one holding people accountable for engaging the way it was designed for us to be engaged in it.
So that tells me that next year, what's going to happen is we're going to create a virtual invitation for people before Kwanzaa starts, for you to show everybody how it actually is supposed to be done. For those that do come on, because we need, but it can't get passed on properly if no one does it.
Yeah, that's right.
And we'll take on that task with Black Educators Rock, and I'll do a sign up, and we'll do it. You think what, 2 nights before Kwanzaa? Well, that's Christmas Eve. What, the 23rd? We'll have to figure out like the 22nd, but before it starts.
We'll make it work.
We'll know how to do it correctly. Even those of us that are doing it in our home, so we will know.
Dario Inez Laria, she said she did her Harambe. She said we didn't hear her through the internet streets, right? So, yeah, Doriel. Yeah.
Yes.
I can't see that good.
Yes.
Yeah, that third book I see y'all, Makiva Jita, yeah, From Slavery to Freedom. Yeah, that was the second book I said. Introduction to African Civilizations was the third, and The Miseducation of the Negro was the fourth, and obviously the first was Before the Mayflower. Are there not other books? I use these as introductory books, right? There are other books, but because see, let me just,
foundation.
Yeah, because see, like I got a zillion books around the house, right? I could recommend one of these high-powered books, right? And then the person read the first page, the introduction, and like, hey, this is too much. So it becomes a discouragement. Like, I would never forget, I used to own a bookstore, black bookstore in Asbury Park, New Jersey. And people would come into the store asking for this book by Chef Diop called Civilization or Barbarism, because he had recently been on a radio station up here called WLIB. And they wanted that book. And because I was an owner of a bookstore who knew my material, I knew my books, I would say to them, nah, I'm not going to sell you this. And it's a thick book. It probably costs more than most books I sold. But I said, nah, I can't sell you this. I said, I want to sell you something more introductory, right? Now, see the owner that doesn't know the merchandise, then they're going to go ahead and sell it to make the money. But I'm saying because I know my material, I know my customers, like, no, not this book. Take this book, read this. Then I got another one for you when you come back. Then I got another one for you when you come back. And then you will graduate to understanding civilization or barbarism.
You said the first 4 were the foundation.
Yeah.
That's the foundation. But you're going to get with someone, you or Dr. Chica, whichever one, you or him, because we need you all to create something interesting that we can listen to, that we audio, because leaders are moving.
Well, he has all that on video. It's on YouTube. Yeah. Chica has all that on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chica go on the Black Educators Right. He has some. If you look up him on YouTube, he has some things that you can look at.
Yeah.
Driving.
Let's go to Chica Akua, CHIKEAKUA, and he's got a lot of Kwanzaa video footage on.
He normally joins us. This is the first year he didn't join us. So.
He's been speaking all week.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm saying he normally is on. So
you can see that April and Doriel is like, we got it. Right.
All righty, everybody. So Habari Ghani again. Have a great
night. Yes.
We'll see you next. We'll see you before then, of course. For the Kwanzaa celebration. All right, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.